All right, we're wrapping up week number 2. You people with 5-day work week can suck it, because I'm done every Wednesday. This is my Friday. Wednesday is my Friday. It's like orange is the new black. Wednesday's the new Friday. I'm Jeff Dubay. It is the Jeff Dubay podcast. This is one I can't say I've been looking forward to it because we threw it together a couple hours ago. I've been looking forward to it for a couple hours. But Julius Collins, longtime friend of the PA and Dubay show, longtime friend of PA and Dubay. Oh, am I talking sideways? I got to go right back into this.
No, I need to get more of you.
Directional mic here. But of course, anybody who's been following the Twin Cities music scene, I mean, back in the day, whether it was fronting Breezy Meal or doing the combo on Mondays at Bunkers. I mean, all I know is you were responsible for some really bad radio because we stayed up late. We stayed up too late on Sundays and Mondays. Mondays and Tuesdays, that first hour, we might have been a little slow to go from time to time. When I say we, I mean PA and myself. And that's on you, Juice.
I can't wait until tomorrow.
The memories.
That's hilarious.
The memories. I'm going to get emotional.
Might very well be too late.
Think it won't?
I can't wait until tomorrow.
So how would this come on like after, right before Good Times? Like we bump into like the final break with that, and then we roll into Good Times at the end of the bit, right? Is that how?
I believe that's how it went, man.
Yeah, I mean it's that was always one of our favorites. My favorite Greasy Meal song was Beat because it was he was
rocker.
rock.
You're the rocker man. But
you guys break into some Hendrix for me from time to time.
A little Zeppelin for you every now and then.
Good Times, Bad Times. Yeah. Absolutely.
Listen, man, I was always up early listening to those shows, but the funniest thing ever was the first time I ever heard you guys talking about it.
Talking about you guys being
at
the show?
We went to see one of our favorite bands last night at the
Caboose.
No, this was at the joint in St. Paul. O'Gara's,
okay, yep.
We saw them at O'Gara's, and these guys play the Caboose on Sunday nights, and it's a lot of fun,
Our boy Danny.
But these guys just seemed like they didn't have it that night. They seemed kind of tired. So I wake up on a Saturday morning. This is when you and PA used to do the Saturday morning thing.
Yeah.
And he was on the West Coast.
Right.
Remember that?
That's what it was.
And so I was like, what is with these guys? And you're like, man, you better watch it. This dude's like built like a cartoon character. So it was like the first experience with you on the radio. I was like,
I referred to you as a cartoon character.
Yeah, you did, and I thought, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
I am kind of funny looking.
Well, I mean, for people who've never seen Julius, and I know that this is not a brilliant paradox I'm about to point out. It's probably been overdone. You probably are sick of it. You probably heard it forever. But Julius looks like a badass mother. I mean, he's a put together. He's a proud, big, strong, scrapping, muscles everywhere. And I'm afraid of black people to begin with. And then, so that doesn't help. I mean, so you scare the hell out of me.
You're dumb.
I'm kidding me. But I mean, he's just a well put together individual. Well, you were a wrestler, weren't you?
Yeah.
I mean, that was your background. I mean, he's a well put together man. But underneath that,
not professional wrestler.
No,
a real
like
wrestler.
a real wrestler. Yeah. No, there were no suplexes. There was no top rope. I mean, there's none of that.
Yeah. Once in a while, I'd like to give a chocolate souffle off the top rope.
I'm telling you, when I was a kid, and like in 4th grade, whatever, and they started offering wrestling, and I went up for wrestling. I was so bummed out that there were no ropes. I'm like, where the hell are the ropes? You got to be kidding me. And where do we do the interviews? Where are the interviews? I said, where do you set up for the interviews? But I had no idea what I was getting.
Where can I get my Superfly Schnucka on?
Oh, man, I'm telling you. And in 8th grade in wrestling, we were doing 8th grade wrestling gym class. A guy named Jason Rain. Good dude. But I mean, there's always, when you're in 7th, 8th grade, there's always one dude who looks like he's 25. That was Jason Rain.
Because they usually are.
Oh, I'm telling you, he's got a little stash. I mean, he's got like the steroid build. I mean, he's a good dude. He was on roids. But I mean, he was put together for 8th grade. And sure enough, they put us together. And I mean, he rolled me over into my head.
Up.
And I mean, my collarbone snapped. I mean, my gym teacher had to help me get my pants on. That's a low.
Jesus, that can't happen.
I mean, when you break your collarbone, I mean, I couldn't move my left arm. I feel like I had a stroke.
Yeah, that's serious stuff.
Yeah, it was no fun.
That's debilitating.
So wrestling, wrestling and I just it was never mixed. But well, Julius, get back to I got to finish off the paradox. Well, he is, I don't want to say an intimidating individual because you've never intimidated anybody in your life. He's an imposing individual. He's also maybe the most peaceful, just peace-loving man I've ever met in my life. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure you're not a woman. To be honest with you, you might be under. You've always had a nice rack.
You're a dick. How about that?
But I mean, seriously. I mean, I can't imagine you hurting a fly. To be honest.
Well, listen, man. It's simple. I believe in trying to be as good as I can possibly be, but people don't make it easy. I'll just say that.
What do you mean when you say that? Nothing's easy.
People don't make it easy. Well, there's that.
So, Greasy Meal, you guys. So this would have been the late '90s when we picked up on you.
Mm-hmm.
When did you guys start? Was that around?
We
that
started
time?
mid '90s. I want to say '95.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. Just on a. We had a 4-week kind of. Let's book a month of Sundays. Play a bunch of shit that nobody's going to want to hear.
Well.
Or that would care about. I mean, this was our thinking. It was a completely selfish endeavor. And I think in most cases when people start playing music, cover bands, they're thinking about what's going to get over and what's going to make people come. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes that's the curse. But we realize this. I realized this. The way we went about it, it was just about being happy, and consequently, the kind of music that we liked, was not like the topical music on records. It was usually deep into records, and so
not to mention it's pretty eclectic. I mean, you get soul, funk, rock.
Yeah,
I mean, you guys were all over the map. I could never really describe.
We played Sly and the Family Stone, and we played,
Yeah, jump into Jimmy, the Little Zeppelin.
Yeah, we just go all over the place. But it was just about, all the incarnations of soul music, man. But after about the third week of that, I was like, wow, man, there's like 300 people here. Maybe we should play more than just a month of this.
Well, I mean, it didn't hurt that you had some technically sound musicians. I mean, Strawberry Fields.
That.
And, I mean,
that band was loaded.
You had the big blonde-haired, goofball-looking guitar player, but he could wail. I mean, you guys had some skill. I mean, you weren't just up there hacking.
No, that was the thing, man.
The singer was a drawback.
There's that. You can't have it all. 7 out of 8 ain't bad. That band was loaded with like first class, like world traveling.
You guys could jam.
Very accomplished musicians who just happen to be really like electric performers.
Hey, where did Davenport of Love come from? Give me a background of the Davenport of Love. A couch that you had on stage that I sat on more than one time. Mm-hmm. I almost fell asleep on a couple times.
Well, it was all right.
Yeah, I mean,
that's how we roll, baby. You hit the fog at that point. Duber needs a nap.
Yeah, seriously. And it's not that the fact that I was maybe drifting or dozing is not a comment on the entertainment. It's just I want to say I want to get this right. I was a narcoleptic, not a necrophiliac. Narcoleptic. Because I get the two confused from time to time.
It can happen.
And it can be really awkward.
It can really happen. Just don't want to confuse those in the wrong setting.
Narcoleptic. So I mean, I could just doze off at a moment's notice, but you'd always give me a little nudge and get me off the couch before it was too late. So where'd that come from?
That's not true.
Seriously, where'd that concept come from?
Well, listen, man. When we started. It was just supposed to be for fun, right?
Right.
But, by the time it started, we were not boys anymore. We had all been in the business for a while. As far as I was concerned, I was ready to be done with the business, so I was just looking to have fun.
How old were you at the
I was
time?
29.
Okay.
So I was like, I've never really enjoyed the business part of it. I've been accused of not wanting to be famous, but I just don't like that whole thing. I don't have the stomach for it. I just don't dig it at all. I like making my shit and doing my thing.
Yeah.
And if somebody wants to give me $1 billion to be me, then I'm cool. But more often than not, you have to kind of go through all these changes, and it's really a tricky thing. And A&R people are the least secure people on the planet when it comes to making decisions, because their job and their homes and their schools and all that stuff is dependent on them getting hits, and it just means getting something that, more often than not, that's already been done.
Well, and that's absolutely true. Well, anything that appeals to the masses is typically mediocre. I'm not trying to be Mr. Artsy-fartsy, but it's true. I mean, excellence is recognized by few, while mediocrity is lauded by the masses. That's why Bob Yates had lousy ratings. Nobody got him. Nobody got Bob.
It's ironic that you would bring up Bob Yates, because that's one of the 3 things that I want to ask you
Seriously?
about.
Okay, we'll get it. Oh, yeah, that's right. We're going to start
Can't forget that.
We're going to start a new bit here where the guy in the hot seat gets to flip it around and grill me with 3 no-holds-barred interview-style questions. We'll get to that in just a second, but I want to get
the Davenport of Love started. The Davenport of Love, it was just a function of me being lazy. I didn't want to stand up and do the front man thing. I wanted to be able to sit down.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah, I wanted to be able to sit down and smoke herb.
Sure. Well, did you never smoke herb on stage? Did you?
Okay.
I mean, you didn't have that kind of.
Of course.
Seriously?
Oh my God, dude.
I gotta pay better attention.
Well, there was a lot of smoke when I'm going, but I think we're famous for it.
Okay, I didn't realize that's illegal,
I heard that.
Unless you're in Denver, in Seattle, and hanging out with persons.
And I am, for all intents and purposes.
What, illegal?
No, well, in Denver, theoretically.
So you just kind of touched on what I wanted to get to. You're talking about the being famous and not wanting to be famous, but it would have been nice to make a big living doing what you're doing without having to put up with all the BS of being famous. But during this time, I remember you guys were featured in a movie about local bands. It was a really cool feature. And I mean, my memory's not, due to some self-inflicted damage. It's not what it once was. But nonetheless, the brain cells that remain do have a recollection of you guys were on the verge of popping back then, weren't you?
Listen,
I thought you were ready to sign.
Greasy Mule was really one of those bands where, especially on the West Coast or on the East Coast, like when we go to L.A., people would treat us like we were the Beatles, or they treat us like we had the plague.
Wow. So did you get girls? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it was always like screaming 13-year-olds.
That's how PA and I were in Mankato.
But in New York,
they dug us in Mankato.
But that's just it, man. It's just, but Greasy Mule was a risk, and for the industry, it required somebody with some courage. And more often than what they wanted to do when they got us out there is they wanted to break up the band and just make it a solo project.
Yeah.
And so it just makes it.
But you had to be the centerpiece of all that.
Well, they wanted to change the name of the band to Julius and kick out Jim and kick out the drummer, and it changes everything. And that's not what I got into being in a band for. You're in a band because there's something about making music and being in those situations with other people. And
you have a mutual friend who's in it for the right reasons, and you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Tom Cook.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a guy who does it for the right reasons, don't you think?
Tom Cook is awesome.
He's an idiot, but I love him to death. I mean, I love idiots.
Most of my friends are idiots.
Yeah, well, I mean, I surround myself with dumb people. It's the only way to
Tom Cook TC is really a talented dude.
Yeah, seriously, and he's a chameleon too. He can play with anybody.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of drummers can.
But
he looks good in a zoot suit. I can tell you that. I never would have guessed that about him until he joined these Oddfather people. I don't know anything about him, but they're snappy dressers, and I see him on Facebook.
It goes a long ways, baby.
Yeah. Well, not for him, but for most people it does. For most dress for success. But Tommy Cook said that's a guy. I mean, he might be 80 for all I know. I mean, I think he's going to do it till he's not. I mean, I congratulated him. He had a birthday recently, and I congratulated him because he's outlived Bonzo, Moon. Ginger Baker's like the only one who's still alive, I think, of the old school guys. Yeah, I don't know if he'll outlive Ginger Baker, but I mean, he's outlived all the other ones.
Something to say about doing what you do and being happy doing it. It's a tricky thing.
Happy or just
sustainability,
clueless, oblivious.
Well, it's. I got a good little life. I've seen a little bit of the world. I've made enough original music that my grandchildren can know why I was here, what I was thinking, what it was all about for me.
That's awesome.
That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, that is awesome, dude. My only mark is the one I'm leaving with. My butt cheeks on this chair. And I don't think that one's going to last much beyond the hour after I'm out of here. All right, so we are going to start something new here. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be called Grill the Host, I guess. That doesn't even need a name. But we're going to give whoever's sitting in the hot seat the opportunity to go wherever he wants. Ask me 3 questions. Now, these are not trivia questions. I was afraid that somebody would. I'm glad you're the first one to do this. It's not that somebody would come in and say, how many homers did Mickey Mantle have in 1972? Dubay? Okay. This is not trivia. It's like an interview kind of a thing. You don't have to be Barbara Walters or anything. But, I mean, you don't have to just rake me over the coals. You don't have to go TMZ on it. But go ahead. It's your ball, Juice. Go ahead.
All right. This is a question I've been wondering for. When did you and Bob Yates have the morning show?
It was 96, 97, 98. Right
so that's my favorite morning show of any morning show of all time. I don't know what it is.
The guy's brilliant and devious and sick and depraved and awesome.
So you get into my question. I want to know something. I mean, just the topical Bob Yates was you could sense the sinister. You could sense the kind of curmudgeonly. He was so super intelligent. Give me some like underbelly Bob Yates.
Underbelly. We would go golfing. I remember golfing once with him on a Saturday where he had action on no fewer than 15 games that were in action at the same time. And he made me bring this little battery-operated TV, and he was just going, he was insane. I mean, he wouldn't put it down. And when you got action on 15 games in a day, that's a lot. But if we were talking about 15 games that were going on at the same time, you know how college football is. I mean, there's a million games. He had 15 games live at once. It was like, hey, dude, you want to sit here?
No, I'm going to cough.
Oh, okay. He's trying to be as covert as he can over here. We're just blowing his cover. But yeah, I mean, Bob. I remember. I mean, we take the Vegas trip every year, with the fan, and we were not. I mean, Bob's not a good gambler. Not many people are good gamblers, but we finally got it right on a Super Bowl. I mean, we loaded up on Brian Billick's Ravens against the Giants.
Okay.
Against Jim Fossil's Giants, and we were so arrogant. We sold points back to Vegas. We took like a 3-point spread and we jacked it up to 10 and got like 3-1, and we just crushed. And we're all just fat with our bankrolls. Sunday night, me, PA, and Bob. They got their cigars going. I'm just walking around with my squeaky voice, happy I got some money in my pocket on a Sunday night in Vegas, which is 1 in a million for me. And Bob walks into the casino with everything he just won in the Super Bowl, and on a whim, like throws it on an NHL game, and loses every bit of it. The man could not stand prosperity. But maybe my favorite personal Yates moment came very early on when I didn't know him yet. I mean, I listened to him a little bit when he was at KSTP in the mid '80s.
See, I didn't know anything about him until that point.
He was doing morning drive and afternoon drive.
Obviously, he talked about his history, but I didn't ever hear it.
But anyway, he always picked what he called the cool song of the day, and he'd throw me, he'd bring in some CD out of his collection, and this happened to be "She's Like a Rainbow" by the Stones.
Okay.
And and then he gets to the line where Mick Jagger says she comes in colors, and all of a sudden Yates turns on the microphone out of nowhere and goes, "She does what?" I mean, I almost fell off my chair. I mean, it's just because I didn't expect it. I didn't hardly know the guy. And I mean, the line, "She comes in colors," and Bob.
He was very inappropriate.
Well,
I just loved that about him.
Okay, inappropriate. Here's inappropriate for you. In today's corporate environment, he knew how to get. We had satellite, whatever. He knew how to get the West Coast Cinemax, so he's watching porn during the show. I mean, softcore, but nonetheless, pretty aggressive.
I'm telling you right now, this is everything I thought.
No,
Bob Yates
he's a
was
hero,
a piece of work, man. I loved him.
I
was just bitter as hell, and I was happy that the PA and Dubay thing happened, but I was bitter when Yates was off, man, because that dude was so. Well,
they brought him back and fired him again. He had 2 runs at the fan.
That's true.
But I tell you what, though, and Sean will appreciate this, because this is a man who was ahead of his time, either in ego or in terms of podcasting. But because before the internet was big, before anybody knew anything about podcasting, during one of his stints of unemployment, he started something which it's laughable in some sense, but it's pioneered in another sense. He and Kenny Olson, who I love Kenny, so man, he's awesome. I miss him over at Hubbard since they let me go. But Kenny Olson and Bob Yates did the Bob and Kenny Tape Club. They took their most diehard listeners, maybe 50 to 100 diehard core listeners, and every day they'd go down into Bob's basement and do like an hour of BS into a tape recorder, and then send cassettes off to people. It was podcasting for the computer illiterate. Ahead of its time.
Brilliant.
Well, I don't think they ever made a dime. But
well,
I mean,
of course not. But most people who are.
How about that? The Bob and Kenny Tape Club. I mean, Kenny would know details a bit better than I. But basically, they're in Bob's basement speaking into a tape recorder, like Sid Hartman's tape recorder, and then just dubbing them off and sending them off to the faithful. And the faithful were very faithful.
It doesn't surprise me. I certainly would have been happy to get in line to get some of that action, because that was some good listening.
Bob was.
And
I'll tell you what,
your
Bob was
chemistry
brilliant.
with him was really, because I think you.
I played the Rube.
I think you get a little bit miscast in the fluffy, nice. I saw the curmudgeon in you, and it really was really enjoyable when you and Yates were together, because it was just like old crusty curmudgeon.
Bob nicknamed me Culture Vulture.
Curmudgeon.
Bob nicknamed me Culture Vulture, but he did it sarcastically. But here's where I'm proud to have made my mark on Bob Yates, because I mean the man's an intellectual giant. He is he got the driest, nastiest, most biting sense of humor you'll ever
No doubt
run.
about it.
And he's a complete and utter pervert. But one morning I made a reference to The Simpsons. And he just, he could get condescending from time to time. And in his most condescending tone, he goes, "Yeah, folks, you just heard it right there. Here's what I deal with. I got a sidekick who watches cartoons." I'm like, "No, Bob, this is not a kid's show."
Bob.
And I got Bob to go home and watch The Simpsons. He became a Simpsons fanatic. He's a Simpsons scholar.
That's effing awesome.
The Simpsons is not.
Simpsons.
The Simpsons is the
TV,
focus of sociology classes at universities. I mean, and the beauty of The Simpsons is you can relate to every single character on that show. Hey, Sean, your phone's blowing up over here if you care about it or not. Oh, screw him. I'm going to tell you who it is. I'm going to tell you your phone call. Hang on. It's Verizon Wireless. You haven't paid your bill. It's a little embarrassing. Isn't it a little bit? I hope they don't cut him off, because we're using his phone for this Wi-Fi. So anyway, question number 2.
All right, here's my question number 2.
Julius Collins, by the way, in the hot seat. I'm Jeff.
You of the renowned Jock Washers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You want to know who had the biggest cranks? I'm not going to go there.
I'm really not prepared to go down the shank crank road, if you will.
Just to say,
but I am curious about this. What's wrong with the twins? I mean, when compared to
I know.
How do you compare?
Yeah.
Okay, this is a multi-dimensional kind of question, because I want to start with, how do you compare Mauer's version of leadership as the head lead dog in the clubhouse, if you will, to Kirby being the lead dog?
Yeah.
In that, because I'm not a baseball guy, but there's something. What's missing?
Well, continuity to me was the biggest thing, and people out there. We've gotten to a point where guys like Ron Gardner. Ron Gardenhire can manage. Ron Gardenhire is a good manager.
Can he?
But we've gotten to the point where they've been bad long enough that if you wanted to make a move, it's justified. I mean, I've defended Ron Gardenhire with my dying breath. And if he were to be let go by the Twins, he could manage somewhere else if he wanted to. He's respected. He's a former AL Manager of the Year. He won 6 division titles in 9 years. I mean,
okay. So will he get hired within a couple of months, or is this one of those things where it could take a while before he gets another gig?
He'd be like Frank Kona, maybe sit a year and then go back. Who knows? But you never know. Maybe right back in. But it depends on what he wants to do.
Okay.
I mean, he's got enough money. I mean, he's a simple guy. He lived in Little Canada, for God's sake. He's a major league manager, lived in Little Canada. You don't get simpler than that. But the continuity that was lacking was when Ryan tried to hand it off to Bill Smith, and you can't blame Bill Smith for everything. I mean, he had a tough time. I mean, Bill Smith, Ryan said he retired, and Bill Smith was the Twins had done a really good job over the years. From McHale, working with Gebhardt, that handed it off, I believe, right to Terry Ryan, and the continuity that they had. GMs that were making good decisions, but they had the guys underneath them that thought the same way they did, and they could hand it off and make it seamless. Terry Ryan was an elite. And I still think is an elite baseball mind. And people who think he doesn't get get his job, then you don't get it. But there's a gap in there where, I mean, when you're a guy like Terry Ryan and you are running an organization like the Twins, everything you do is with a long-term focus.
Sure.
It's not that you don't want to win now.
Sure.
But I mean, you can't have urgency. I mean, you want to win now, but everything's got to focus long-term. Like what he was really good at is he was really good at, the Twins would sign these aging veterans who could still contribute, be leaders, like a Dave Hollins at third base, or Roberto Kelly in center field. But what he's really good at is, Willingham is that kind of guy too. He could take that player at the trading deadline and turn him into David Ortiz. He could take that player and turn him into a young guy that's got a chance that he would take a chance on, and he got lucky on a lot of those. He got Joe Mays. He got Joe Mays for Roberto Kelly, and that was a spare part. I mean, those are the kind of deals.
Okay, but
nowadays, really skilled
nowadays we're kicking guys like Ortiz away, and they're thriving other places.
I know.
What's that all about?
Well, I think that they'd readily admit that they tried to make Ortiz something he wasn't. But in their defense, when he was here, he wasn't.
He seems like a virtuoso of a hitter.
Well, yeah, and he is.
My God,
he is. He's also matured a lot. I mean, he wasn't the same. He's a great leader now, and he's this jovial, big pappy, laughing, fun guy in the clubhouse. But when he was here, his nickname was No Hablo. So he wouldn't talk to anybody. And if they tried to talk to him, he pretended he didn't speak English. When damn well we all knew he spoke English. But they'll try that trick. They'll try that trick. And plus, he's like 10 years older than he says he is. He's got to be 55 by now.
That's hilarious.
But I mean, nobody knows how old any Latin American ball player is. It's just a crapshoot. But you can always add a few. Herman Gonzalez. You remember him? He's a bald. He was a relief pitcher who looked like he was 45 years old. He said he's 23. It's like, come on. I mean, just at least try to keep it in the ballpark. But when Ortiz was here, he wasn't a great guy. He was kind of a surly, quiet guy. And he wasn't just a struggling hitter because, the myth of TK trying to get him to go up the middle or go the other way. I mean, granted, that was the Twins' philosophy. They wanted you to spray the ball around. They didn't want you to be predictable and always try to pull it. And it did maybe limit Ortiz. But at the time, Ortiz was not the kind of guy who could just get up on the plate and just start, turning and driving like he does now, like he has for the last 10, 15 years. He wasn't that kind of hitter, and it didn't look like he ever would be. And is
that what it was? It was a function of them not believing he would ever.
Yes, yeah. I mean, they didn't believe in him. They thought he's a mediocre ball player. And in his younger years, this is back when he was in his 20s, he could not play in the field, and that's always a problem. When you're 25 or 26, 27, or you say you are and you're 32, but you can't play the field. I mean, it's one thing now that he's 40 or that he's 45 and says he's 38 or whatever, but it's fine now to DH. But back then, at that age, at that point, you wanted a guy who could get in the field once in a while, especially since Herbeck was not playing 150 games a year.
Right.
So I mean, there were reasons. They made a mistake, and it's they know they did.
Did having Herbeck come before him hurt him in terms of? I mean, Herbeck. Stature was.
Well, yeah. First base was occupied. I mean, put it that way. And Herbeck was a guy that they were more than willing to leave alone and let him pull the ball. I mean, they never tried to turn Ken Herbeck into a pull hitter, and it didn't matter how crazy the shifts got. I mean, teams would line up everybody on the right side to the point where like left field would start tipping up, like they're at the end of a scale.
So is that a function of him having done it when it mattered most? Like having done it in big series, having won he won 2 World Series, right? At that point?
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, if you, as a hitter, if you give in, I mean, Ken Herbeck could have batted 450 by just laying bunts down the third baseline. But then you take away guys' power. I mean, he could have He could have. I mean, Kent Herbeck has as good at natural hand-eye coordination as any athlete I've ever seen in my life. I mean, people say, "Oh, he's not an athlete." You know what? Hand-eye coordination is a trait of an athlete. That's why I would argue that golfers, no matter how fat they get, they still got that hand-eye coordination to make them athletes. But, I mean, Herbeck's got the hand-eye coordination where he could take the ball the other way if he needed to or if he wanted to. But by doing that, he knew that he was, I'm going to spill this, he knew he's taking away his power. So he would let something on the outer half go. And he'd wait for something that he could turn on. And he'd crowd the plate and then look to pull it. And would he hit some balls to the right side of the infield that the shortstop would have? And you'd be like, well, man, he can't keep trying to pull the ball. Well, yes, he can, because he's not going to give in and let them take away what he does. And that's what you do if you ever give in. I mean, when a team lines guys up like that, they're not just trying to have everybody on the right side because that's where they're going to hit it. They're daring you to go the other way because they want you to take away your power.
Right.
They'd be thrilled if you just slap something to left field. And that's you don't want to give in and become what the other team wants you to be. But the Twins made mistakes on Ortiz. I mean, there was something there that they didn't see, and I promise you that they do regret it. I mean, but he was not anywhere near. It wasn't as obvious. You look at him now at Boston, you say, "Boy, we should have seen that." It was fairly well hidden.
How many pitchers? All right, let's get off Ortiz. How many pitchers have we lost that have?
Well,
I mean,
we got.
And I'm not just talking like the Garzas of the world. I'm talking about
like Loesch. I mean, we
even
got
before Loesch. What was the guy who threw the no-hitter for Cheapers?
Not Milton.
Or the Black Sox. Can't think of this.
Oh, Erickson. Yeah, well, I mean, he never really did much.
He seemed like he was. Didn't he throw a no-hitter, or didn't he play?
He threw a no-hitter here. He threw a no-hitter here. Yeah,
I thought he had a couple good years after that.
Well, Scott Erickson was kind of, in a way, the Francisco Liriano of his time. I mean, he came up here. He came up here throwing filthy shit that nobody could touch and nobody was going to touch. I remember, John Candelaria was a man who'd been around. You would have loved John Candelaria. He referred to himself...
Quite the rotund, wasn't he?
Well, he always referred to himself as a man of stature. He'd always be like, a man of my stature should be relinquished to this kind of this or that. I mean, I remember the day after he discovered Murray's. He came strolling out to the bullpen and goes, I finally found a restaurant in your cow town that is suitable for a man of my stature. It used to be shut up about Murray's. He's that kind of guy. He's a great guy.
Good about himself.
Oh, no, he's a great guy, though. He's a hilarious guy. But I remember Scott Erickson's major league debut in 1990, not 91. He came up in 90. And he's throwing these filthy sinkers. This disappearing fastball. The hitters don't see it. They're just swinging over it. And Candelaria came, swaggering out to the book. And I goes, well, you boys. I mean, he could always distance himself from the team. You guys found yourself a pitcher. And he put lean back with his hands behind his head, and put his feet up. You guys found yourself a pitcher. He goes, this guy's a real deal, and he was, because nobody could touch it. But what Scott Erickson was doing to make that ball sink was he so much torque in his forearm. I mean, he had forearms that were Popeye times 10. I mean, me on a dating slump. I mean,
so he jacked his stuff up.
No, he wasn't cheating. No,
he jacked his stuff up, meaning he hurt the movement.
One thing you got to understand is pitchers cannot, especially starting pitchers, cannot throw every pitch balls to the wall.
Right.
You're not going to last. You cannot throw every pitch like it's going to be your last. You've got to be free and easy and throw it comfortably. I mean, there's always going to be torque on an arm. Nobody's arm is made to be a major league pitcher. I mean, major league pitchers do some crazy stuff to the torque and the arm position. I mean, you could see some still shots of pitchers in mid motion, and you think the guy's arm's about to fall off. I mean, the arm is not made to do that.
It's a violent motion.
But when you get a guy like Erickson, who didn't understand that you can't. I mean, he was a competitor. I love him for it, but you can't go balls to the wall every pitch. You got to find a comfort zone, and he was just. I mean, he got such a sore, just ripped up forearm that he wasn't able to be the same the second half of 1991. I mean, he was going to start the All-Star game before he went on the DL. That's how dominant he was the first half of 91. But the torque on the forearm was too much, and then TK and Suchi were always really, really good. Some people would say they coddled pitchers, but I thought they took care of pitchers. I mean, because pitchers are your blood, they're your blood in baseball. Mm-hmm. That's your lifeline or whatever. So they did everything they could to monitor pitches and pitch counts, and they tried to get Scott into a comfortable arm slot and to not be so intense. I mean, he was just. You got to loosen up. You got to have a loose arm. You can't be this tight, torqued arm. You're just not going to stay healthy. And they tried to basically reinvent him. And he still was a good pitcher. And he went on to have a no-hitter and did some good years. But he was never the same dominant guy because he didn't. And now that's why I compare him to Liriano, because Liriano, when he came up, I'd never seen anything like him. I'd never seen anything like him.
He was filthy when he first
came
up.
And I still remember a game in Houston where it was Clemens versus Liriano. People were talking about the matchup and the showdown, and they couldn't wait to see Clemens because Clemens was just coming back, like after sitting out the first half of the season to do whatever he does. And I kept thinking to myself, leading up to this game, people can be as excited as they want about the return of Rocket, but the kid's going to upstage him. I mean, because this is when he was filthy and nobody could touch him. I mean, he's a long. People don't know how tall and lanky Liriano is.
I didn't realize how tall he was.
The long arms and the long, spindly fingers. I mean, he could almost touch first base from the pitcher's mound. It's just ridiculous. But his pitching motion it hurts to watch him. I mean, he has no mechanics. I mean, he's just everywhere. And I think that's kind of what happened in Pittsburgh. Is they just said, well, you know what? We could try to do what they tried to do in Minnesota. We could try to do what they tried to do in Chicago. But he's just going to be a mediocre pitcher. So go out and do what you want to do, Francisco. And he had a great year. I don't know what this year was a completely different story. He melted down, but he's just another guy who he can do it, but he can't do it the right way, which means he can't do it lasting. And you can't throw a ball the way Liriano wants to on a pitch-by-pitch basis and think you're going to not be an amputee by the time you're 35. I mean, it's too much torque, it's too much bend.
So who's the guy right now in the game who's got like the craziest throwing motion that has been like the exception to the rule?
Well, I mean, you got the Japanese cat with the Yankees.
Yeah, but what is he, 2 years in now?
I mean, but what's his face too with God? Well, I can't think of his name. Right-hander with the Giants has been around forever. Well, I can't think of his name. I'm drawing blanks on names.
Well, I'm trying to get a sense of how long you can sustain that, or even on the fluky side. Is that a 7-year sort of deal, or is that a 4-year sort of deal?
You never know, because some guys literally. I mean, not literally, but I mean, when we hear about a guy having a rubber arm, I mean, there are guys who just. I mean, some guys' ligaments can stretch and bend and just do all kinds of crazy, Stretch Armstrong ligaments, and other guys are just fragile and they'll pop. But you know what? I tell you what. We're almost to a stage in surgical advancements and whatnot. I wouldn't be surprised when you see some power pitchers coming up, to high school, college, whatever, having elective Tommy John surgery. And I'm not kidding, because once you get it and you get it done right, it's like you want to get the measles when you're a kid.
You can't re-injure it after you've had it.
Well, you can, but it's so rare. It's so rare.
Because it seems like everybody's having
It's like the measles. You got to get it when you're a kid. Now it's out of your way. Now you're going to be fine. Get your Tommy John out of the way. Seriously. I mean, Strasburg.
That's ridiculous.
It is.
So essentially, you're forfeiting a year of your career because it's going to be necessary, whether optional or not.
I mean, but if you're a power pitcher, and you're somebody who snaps off a nasty slider, you're going to have it sometime. It's almost unavoidable. I mean, if your guy throws 95 and snaps off sliders, you're going to have Tommy John.
So if you have Tommy John, does that mean you can come back and throw as filthy after the fact, or have you been limited somehow?
No. A lot of guys will come back throwing harder, and
really?
It's because they put a tendon in that's tighter, that's shorter and thicker, and I mean it comes out of your leg, it comes out of your knee.
But this doesn't restrict anything. It's...
Oh no. I don't believe so. I mean the rehab process is lengthy, and they're just regaining your touch and your feel and your control. Copyright Mike Pelfrey is more than half the battle. But these guys typically come back throwing a little harder than they did before because it's a tighter joint. It's a tighter ligament.
Why are we seeing so much more of that nowadays?
So much more of
Tommy John. It seems like
because it's so much easier. I think a lot of guys in the past should have had it, or if had it been as advanced as it is now, would have gone ahead and done it. But they just either rehabbed it or pitched through it or whatever, the same guy, or pitched it till it was blown out completely. I just think that it's more. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's more available now, but it's certainly more stomachable now, if that's a word. I mean, it's just a better option now than it ever was before. I mean, it is what it is. Well,
I imagine the technology is really getting.
Well, yeah. I mean, the way these guys come back from it is really amazing. Is that 2 or 3?
That's 2.
Okay, you got another one.
I got another one.
But this is Grill the host, Julius Collins, Jeff Dubay podcast.
I was going to go down the road of why do you have such horrible taste in women, but
I have. No, my current is
like
the exception to the list.
Sounds like there's an exception to the list.
My history's
to
bad.
the rule.
No, my history's horrible.
And I'm thrilled as hell to hear that.
Good. Yes. No, she's a good one.
Leave that at that. So what is the one person, and you don't have to say a name,
okay,
but the one person at one of your two, so it won't be one of those things where people can actually track this.
You're trying to get your devious on?
Well, I'm just curious, who is the least likable radio figure that you haven't actually had a rant about on Facebook?
I don't rant about radio figures on Facebook, except for Sean Bernard.
who have you come across? I mean, we talk about Bobby Higgs. I just had a feeling Bobby Higgs was that kind of dude who had action going on a bunch of games. He just seemed like that kind of dude who was kind of.
He is who he.
Who is the guy who's not what we think he is, or gal?
Oh God, you're really gonna get me in trouble. There's a couple of them at the fan. To be honest with you.
I know.
There's a guy who's got a very similar background to you, who's maybe one of those guys. That's as far as I'm going to go with that one. That's as far as I'll go with that
Enough.
one. You know what I'm talking about?
Enough. I certainly do. I think that's. I'm giggling inside, and I want to be giggling outside. So
that's as far as I'm going to go with that. When I say no holds barred, you don't mess around. You go right for the jugular and try to get me in trouble.
Well, I could have went ugly, but I just wanted to go.
I can tell you.
Curious.
I'll tell you right now that. Not to give you the opportunity to go process of elimination, but Corey Cove, Dan Cole, Dan Barrero are exactly who you think they are. They're exactly.
And you know what?
There's no false pretense with any of those human beings.
Well, I don't know. I don't know the latter two that well. Although I will say this: the first time I encountered Dan Cole was
he's the real McCoy.
We were all at this church gym. You NPA invited me to play basketball.
Oh yeah!
Remember that night?
Yeah. Ryan Lefevre
and the whole gang were out. And Dan Cole had on goggles and knee
he's
pads,
a goofball.
and he was guarding.
He wanted to shut you down defensively. That was
just shut me down so bad.
What's going on?
It was the funnest.
Sean Skinner.
Sean Skinner in the house.
You know Sean Skinner? How do you know Sean Skinner?
Sean Skinner is my man.
And then Tony, you know Tony.
Yes, I do, man.
Oh, so you guys just heard Julius was on, so you thought you'd come by and soak up a little of the greasy love.
I did a podcast with these guys at my house in my living room.
Really? I did one with them at an Italian restaurant a couple weeks ago.
I know. I retweeted it.
Things have really gone. Maybe it's your guys' fault because things have gone to hell for me since then. My unemployment ran out. I totaled my car. It's just been. You guys are the kiss of death.
Today.
You guys are the kiss of death.
Are you not one to talk
You're
about?
blaming us?
No, it's fine.
You're blaming us?
Well, I was riding high in the hog back in the. Remember, I didn't have enough gas money, but other than that, I don't have to worry about that anymore.
We got you lunch.
Yeah,
we fed you that day.
No, it was damn good. Would you give me a little space?
No, I'm just trying to get on your lap.
Well, that's a little knee to knee over here.
It's like old school.
Yeah,
Juice, how you
Iceman
doing?
and Skinner, man. I'm great, man. Good to see you guys.
It's good to see you. As soon as I saw you on Facebook saying that you're going to be in the hot seat today, I was like, we got to get over there.
Well, he was digging at the bottom of the barrel. He's like,
no
socks.
way.
The socks don't even match, but here I am. I'm 2 pairs of different socks.
I've been meaning to get you to be proactive and book you for one of these, but then when the guy who was going to do this day, the guy I've known since the 5th grade, an old childhood friend of mine, had to fly to Australia on an emergency.
Holy moly!
Yeah, I know, and I wish him the best. I don't know what's going on, but I know his better half lives in Australia. So I'm hoping things are all right.
What's he like, retrieving some contraband?
No. This is his betrothed. So I hope everything's all right.
Wow.
But it opened the door for you, which is
Well, next time I come by, I'll actually do something that will be cool.
Well, I mean, just your presence is fairly cool. I mean, it's not as cool as it once
You walk
was.
into a room, and it just changes the whole vibe.
Well,
Right.
it used to, because he had like the capes. He had like the James Brown capes, and he dropped to his knees, and someone would come and run and cover him up. It was really dramatic, but it was a little full of himself too.
Well,
you know, the only thing you were missing was Spicy T holding up a mirror for you.
Oh, I forgot about him, dude. He was a weird dude.
Spicy T
I forgot about him.
is really funny. He's really an interesting dude.
God, what was that song that he did that had all the rap in it? The middle section with all the rap that he was with the macaroni.
Urban Herbalist?
Yeah. That was it. I was never a big rap guy. But
no,
that's funny that the white guy in your group was the one who rapped. I mean,
well, what do you mean?
Everybody
else in the group is white except for me.
I want some racial stereotypes. You're like the reverse Dave Matthews.
Thank you.
You're like Bizarro Dave Matthews.
We just need a really bad violinist.
I've always thought to myself, like when Dave Matthews Band shows up like in the South and they got a bunch of ignorant rednecks, I mean, some guy could just hear him go, "Hey man, take it easy. At least I got a fiddle." And another guy goes, "Yeah, but check it out. He's a Negro."
Yeah.
I was just the idiots in the South.
That would be the sanitized version. Oh, you know it, man.
You don't like Boyd? I think Boyd's got some
Dave Matthews.
chops.
I'm just not a fan.
To be honest with you, the guy who I thought was maybe not the best technical musician in the band. I don't want to.
I know you were a big Matthews
He's
guy.
the late great Leroy Moore. I didn't think was a terribly skilled musician, but still died a tragic death. Now you made me just rip a dead guy.
Holy moly, nice
going.
You
just made me rip a
Jeepers
dead guy.
Creepers.
Jeez, I know. I was trying to.
You
do that.
guys want to rip a dead guy?
Well, to be honest with you, I was waiting for Sid. But you just made me jump the gun.
Everybody wants to
Wow,
rip
too
Sid
soon.
after he's
No,
gone.
I'm just kidding. Too soon. He's not even dead yet. Jesus Christ. Not just talking about ripping a dead guy, but anyway.
Are you hot?
I'm always hot, man.
Hey now.
That's Tony.
There we
What's
go.
up, Tony?
I'll run this.
Look at Sean just jumping around the board.
I used to run the board.
So Skinner.
This is a good setup you got out here. This is fun.
Well, this is
Packed
brand new.
house.
This is brand new.
I like this.
Because last week was a train wreck. Because Bernard screwed the whole thing up. Screwed the whole thing. We're not going down that road again.
Wow.
No.
Some guy named Sean screwed it all up.
Here we go.
Yeah. No, seriously. This is all his production, and it's first class, and it sounds good. We can start taking calls if we want to.
You know, the
We
room.
don't want to.
This is amazing. The room is full.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you've got that nice ambient noise. You got balls being served to everybody around the room.
Correct. Have you eaten here before?
No, I've stopped in before with one of my reporters who does a segment about eating, and he won
get that
Russia.
gig?
Jesus. Where's your
Yeah,
balls?
he won an Emmy
Did you
for
guys
it.
get
By
to
the
Russia?
way.
Balls?
Yeah, to Russia
Oh,
eats.
well,
So
I
he's,
didn't know
you know,
that.
he gets to eat.
He's not a big guy.
No. Actually, Jason, when he first got here, was he was a plus size fella.
Was
And
he really?
He lost a lot of weight, and he got himself
Puppy.
in really good shape. And
No meatballs? Did you guys have meatballs yet or no?
I have, but not today.
What,
Not
here?
today. My
No,
gal's
I haven't
making
had
me
it.
dinner.
Gotta get Julius some
I mean, I eat here basically every night, but my gal's making me dinner tonight.
where's
so.
your girl? Where's the girl?
She's not here right
Carissa?
now. She's picking me up.
Oh,
no,
man.
not Carissa.
No, I want to see
no,
Carissa.
no.
You keep talking about Carissa.
See, now I'll get in trouble. But no, my gal's name is Sarah. But she's gonna get mad if I say her name too much because she's a very private individual.
Oh, of course.
But
She's
picking
smart.
Me, she's picking me up after the show. You can stick around and check it out if you want.
Right on.
But anyway, Chris, I don't know what Chris is. Chris is she's typically behind the bar. I mean, they're not stupid.
Well,
I mean, they put their eight.
This
talent
is a
in
hot
front line.
time in the
Is that the
restaurant
owner
market
person,
here. I mean,
owner lady?
oh
What's
no,
that?
I just think
she's
it's
not-
amazing that
Oh,
this place has
Chris
been
is
here. How long
minority.
has this place been here? I've walked
2
by
years.
6
2
billion.
years?
Oh,
2
just
years.
2 years. Okay.
2 years.
So not 6 billion times.
Those are some big old wings. Jeez, look at those. Those are some big old wings. Oh, yes, please. I'd love another Diet Coke. Thank you.
I'm good, thank you. I appreciate it.
But Juice,
Wow.
you want something to drink, man? Just an ice water, even?
I'll take. I'd love a
The
water.
man's
Yeah,
too
thank
far-
you.
He's too unassuming.
Do you have a tin
Just
of
pass.
Altoids too? He's
No.
Oh, I forgot
Usually
about
eats
Altoids.
those
You got that-
religiously.
You got that from PA, though.
What's that? The Altoids?
The Altoids.
No, I didn't.
Oh, come on. I thought you ripped that off from PA.
No, people used to hand me mints and stuff all the time because I'm all about the saliva.
Huh.
And
Yeah, were they
once I've-
always mints? You sure they were always mints?
Well, no,
So,
not
I mean,
always.
It might look like a Tic Tac.
There's some
It might look like a
hallucinogenics
Tic
at
Tac.
times. But the Altoids, at least, they were just so strong. They made me like really salivate, and it's for a singer.
Sure.
It's a good
curiously
thing.
strong.
They were curious. That's
Yeah,
where
that's
I was
it.
like, wow,
I just never liked the
it's great. But
cases you
after a
carry
while, I
those
just became
Altoids in.
obsessed with them.
Sure.
And then
Singers and porn stars.
Fields is a is a vegan, so the gelatin in them would drive him crazy.
Oh,
And the sugar was
Dude,
so strong, I was like, so I stopped.
So wait a second. Vegans can't have gelatin?
He's not into it. I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know.
Okay. Well, that
Julius,
would
but I
piss
just know.
Cosby off. Cosby got to be upset with the vegans. No gelatin.
Oh,
Really?
Well,
That's a long ways to go for that.
well,
Yeah, there you
I don't get vegans.
Gelatin pudding.
a flipper de flu.
Well, I mean, he wouldn't be down with the language on this show either. He'd knock on our door and say, hey, "You got to clean it up a little bit."
It's the best thing ever. Chris Rock telling this story about how
And Eddie Murphy too. Eddie Murphy got a visit.
Eddie Murphy.
I
That's
mean,
what
they all got a visit from Cos at one point or another.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine Richard Pryor? First time
I
you heard Richard Pryor?
I just love
Man,
Eddie called Richard Pryor because he was devastated because Bill Cosby was reprimanding him. So he says, "You tell Bill to suck my dick." Like, wow.
It's nice to have
Sorry,
Richard Pryor in your
Richard
corner.
Pryor
Or at
in
least
your
back in the
corner.
day it was.
You cannot go wrong with
Back
Richard Pryor in
in
your
the-
corner.
Well, back in the day.
Yeah, well, there's that.
He's not carrying the clout that he
Well,
wants.
you know, he had his own.
Yeah, well,
He had his own stuff.
I just watched Live on the Sunset Strip on Netflix the other day. The red suit is sharp.
The red suit is all freaking hilarious.
Yeah, that's it.
I love Richard
but
Pryor.
he fit right in. I mean, it had to be in the late 70s, early 80s. When was that?
I want to say 81, but it may be like 80, 79. It's right in there.
I don't know
That
why.
What was that suit you were wearing the other night? What was that suit?
What are you talking about?
That's, I don't know what that picture was you put up, but you were wearing that suit
Oh,
and that hat.
some event.
yeah,
I was going
yeah.
to some event over
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
Metropolitan. You know, one of those things.
You looked like you would have fit in right at that Richard Pryor
Well,
concert.
for a guy from Iowa, he cleans up pretty good for a guy. You're from Iowa, aren't you?
I grew up in foster care system in Iowa, born in Chicago.
Okay.
So my
okay,
family's from
okay,
Chicago.
Okay.
So I come from a long line of hustlers and pimps.
Well, Iowa does have black people, but they import them from Chicago.
It's exact, or Mississippi, or
right.
Mississippi,
All right, well, I
and
get
it's very, very true thing. Actually, there was that whole migration and the jobs migration. I mean, I know I took a joke and made it serious, but
Wasn't a good joke. That's
but I had a very freaking southern existence growing up, man. It
I
was
can't imagine you with a
very-
draw.
Whoa,
well, just
sorry, I was
the,
just distracted there.
What? Oh, is it Carissa?
uh-oh.
Yeah,
Must
I
have
don't
been Mirage, man.
not
walking
You
good.
around.
guys are embarrassing.
That's
think
not
so.
Carissa.
Yeah, I'm terribly
this.
embarrassing.
That's not Carissa.
She was
Um,
about 6 foot tall and
Carissa's not quite 6 foot tall, but she wore some heels, and
She's stunning. I'll say that.
Well, she wore some. Do you guys see the picture that we took
Yes.
with the flag
Yes.
outfit? The flag outfit, yeah.
Saluted America.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
God bless the
God
U.S. of
bless the
A.
U.S.
Yeah, we ran it up the flagpole and everybody saluted. There's
Hey, now.
no doubt about it. I don't want to get sexist now, so I don't want to get in trouble with my gal who's about to come pick me up. But that's my ride, for God's sake. I'm not
Yeah, you
stupid.
don't want to screw
Is
that
she
up.
listening on her phone, or she's not streaming it in her car?
That's true. But yeah, she got pissed at me later, though. She,
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's
There's
right.
nothing worse than that, the delayed piss
An
off.
open mic.
You don't want that one.
Yeah, she'll store up that hate like a camel. I mean, trust me. But no, I'm just kidding. She's a good girl. Now I'm in trouble. Did we finish off the
Yep, the
I thought
last
that was
one.
the whole show. Oh, yeah, we got to move on from that last week.
The last one, it was kind of a quick.
Was that who? Were you fishing for that one? Was that who you
I
were
wasn't fishing for that one, but let's just say I had a feeling.
What?
Let's just say I had a feeling.
All right.
I'll leave it at that.
You'll leave
But it was fascinating to hear it.
Yeah, and to out me.
Hey,
Well, you're right. Nobody listens. Nobody. Yeah, I get your point.
those
Nobody
people
listens.
are
That's-
trying to pretend like you don't exist.
Those people.
Those people.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But good luck with that.
Which people are you talking about? Now I'm lost.
I'm just saying.
Them, they.
I'm trying to keep it plural so that we don't get too specific.
Right,
Sweet Jesus.
Right. Well, I
So,
hate
Julius, who are you specifically talking about?
I will not. I'm no longer. I should have never went down that road to begin with, but I couldn't resist.
I know, but
Because
go
you want to
back
know. You want to know. I mean, people like that.
well, all right. There were a couple things I wanted to get to before. Actually, sports-related things. Believe it or not, we don't talk about sports all the time on the show.
And believe me, I can't
And when we
believe how
do,
long
it's
we
Adrian
talked about the
Peterson.
Twins,
Hey,
which is
but
ridiculous.
I want to ask you about Adrian Peterson. What do you think about it? Because
Okay.
my take on this whole thing has been, Ray Rice is an animal. You punch a woman in the face, you're an animal. Jonathan Dwyer is subhuman. Your wife won't give you sex, so you headbutt her and beat her up. Adrian Peterson is not to be excused or looked over or ignored for what he did. But he's a father who saw his kid act up and knew he had to punish him. And I've always just said, this is a guy who lacks the proper skills, the proper parenting skills to know how to handle that situation. It doesn't make him an animal like these other people, so
Okay.
stop casting him as these
I
other people.
couldn't.
Do you think his son's going to want to visit him anymore?
Well,
that's beside
I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes. But it's very complicated. I want to say this because there's a lot of components to this shit, man. And I just want to say I came from a background with a woman who was born in 1906 in Greenville, Mississippi. And I understand that some of that psychology is like biblically based. And some of it is just a function of trying to keep you from getting lynched in Mississippi, early 1900s. So that was where she.
Those are two elements I never even.
So she would beat us
knew existed.
like within an inch of our life. I completely denounce that form of punishment.
Sure.
I have two children and they did not get spanked, but they were brutalized psychologically. Bam! Take that.
Just the gun show
But
alone.
Beat him with your
but
mind.
I was really so when I heard this, I was
Carissa.
really
There's
disappointed
Carissa.
because I know that
Behind the
especially
bar. That's the person behind the bar, the taller one of the two. I think the other one's her daughter. No, I'm just kidding.
Easily distracted.
the timing of it couldn't have been worse.
See why.
So he screwed himself.
Yes.
The timing
Oh,
of it, of
perfect
course, he
storm.
didn't plan it like that, but the timing was bad. But I'm so glad to hear somebody get into the nuancing of this because those dudes are effing monsters.
Yes.
Those motherfuckers
They're
are
not even
monsters.
close to the same. Not even
Those
close to the
dudes
same.
need to have bats taken in their heads, etc. Okay? But what Adrian Peterson did was, without a doubt, misguided. And you couple that with the fact that he's not the greatest of parenting role models when it comes to procreating.
Right.
So you couple that with the fact
Well,
that the kid
he has
doesn't-
a great parent if you just go by numbers. I mean, it just depends. It just depends.
Yeah, the
It's all the-
law of averages
might
right
be Hall
there.
of Fame. George
Evens
Foreman.
out, right?
I think there's
But-
more than anybody even has a clue.
But the idea that he did it
Hit a
that way
hole.
was
Let's just say that.
was
He
short-sighted.
didn't wait till Sunday to hit a hole. Let's just put it that way.
Really?
I just came up with that. That was pretty good, huh? It's a good thing somebody
You couldn't
laughed.
wait to get it in.
No, well, he
Get it
can't either,
in.
but
No, you just got it. You
But
just-
seriously,
But yeah,
that just popped into my head right now.
all right, so what
Solid.
now? What happens now? I agree with you 100%, and it's nice to hear it that way because
Well, you know what's gonna happen
got
is
the
that-
whole Hope Solo situation, and you got all this outrage about Adrian Peterson,
The
and
mob.
he's been
No, I hate the mob.
kind of
I hate
coupled with
mob
all these other
mentality.
guys,
Mob
right?
mentality is going to force him out of this market. It's going to piss me off. It really is. When I'm reading articles about whether or not he should remain a Minnesota
it's
Viking or whether or not he
ridiculous.
should be a Hall of Famer,
I think that's ridiculous.
It's gotten so out of hand.
I think
gotten
it's
so out of
I think
hand.
it's completely when we
Yes,
talk
yes,
about
it is.
how Ray Lewis is glorified. I mean, if somebody can come back from a scenario like that,
He killed a guy,
Okay,
allegedly.
how is it possible that we can't say what you did, Adrian, is ridiculous? And if you want to take it to the fullest extent and say you have to have chaperone visits with your son, well, he earned that. Sorry, motherfucker, you should have learned how to parent. Should have learned how to be around and be accessible so that you could have more of an imprint on your kid than just brutalizing them. But having said
not literally an imprint on it.
yeah, that was a bad choice of words. But having said all that, it's absurd to try to take away that guy's career.
I agree.
Over something this dumb.
Do you think that the mob mentality in Minneapolis didn't run Kirby out of town just because he was done playing at the time?
Which made me sick.
Of course it did.
And I think he won. I think Kirby won 2 rings, and that carried a little extra.
Well,
that did help. I mean, Adrian's playing. He's on the wrong side of 30. You know, it's.
It turned my stomach to have people try to convince themselves that Kirby Puckett's a bad guy. Kirby Puckett was a bad husband, and that's as far as I'll take it.
There you go.
I mean, he's one of the best human beings I've ever met in my life. I mean, he treated people like I've never seen anybody. I mean, you know how the dome was set up with the loading dock, and the kids would sit and wait for autographs.
Oh yeah.
You know, a lot of players, after a loss, after a win, whatever, will just not be in the mood. They'll breeze by, and that's their prerogative. Some guys will stop and sign a few and whatever, but you can't get everybody. Kirby got everybody. I mean, Kirby would be. I'm not kidding. He would take a shower. He'd be dressed. He'd be gone. 2 hours later, I'll be taking the garbage out, and he's up there. He would. Once he thinks he's getting to the end of everybody, he'd stop. He'd step back. He'd go, "Did I get everybody?" He would not leave until he'd make sure. He'd step back and say, "Did I get everybody?" He'd do it 10 times.
Okay. How long was Kirby
here? He wouldn't leave until every kid.
How long was Kirby's run?
84, like 10 years, 10, 11 years.
Okay, so Adrian's been here 7 or 8 years, and he's had nothing but good.
That's what I said.
He's been nothing but a model citizen, right? I mean, he's been nothing but
donations.
Yeah, I mean, left and right.
Yeah.
I mean, and for the most part, he's represented this organization. So the idea that
he's not making it rain with Pac-Man.
I just think that this is a cop out. I think it's a cop out.
I agree.
And if you want to say I want to cut him because he's making too much money and this is bad press, that's fine. But have some freaking conviction about it, because if you want to conflate this with what those other dudes did, I just don't. I'm not buying.
It's not
I think
the same.
It's really disgusting.
It is absolutely not the same.
Hey, you know the old Michael Myers bit, Sprockets, is part of Sprockets where we dance. Well, this is the part in the Jeff Dubay show where we stroke the client. So let's just take a minute or two. But in all honesty, this is a cool ass place.
It is a really cool place.
You know what I like about it?
Great place.
It's an old school bar, like Whitey's. You know, it's like one of those. It's a long, narrow hall with a straight bar. It's not some octagonal, hexagonal, lit up neon bar
I dig it.
with a bunch of goofy people gelled up hair dancing around by it. It's a straight old school bar with a tatted up bartender where you're staring at a brick wall as you drink.
That's all I'm talking about.
That's what we're talking
and the food's good.
40 craft
and the spirits are flowing.
And it's all meat.
Scenery.
I mean, this place is all about protein. Everything's balls of meat, which is awesome. I mean,
Can't go wrong with balls of meat.
Well, we're not.
There's nothing Freudian there, but
well,
it's
chicken balls are not testicles of chicken.
fantastic
They're just
food.
balled up balls of chicken. I mean, it's not chicken testicles. So everybody can just
Well, you
relax.
know, that's good. That's going to be good to
I love
know,
this place.
because I was not going to order any testicle
I tell you what.
or any round obs.
I've been here. This is show 6, and I brought the date here Friday. So this is my 7th time here. I've only had one thing twice, and that's the shrimp po' boy, and it's so good. It's so good. I mean, the fried shrimp sandwich. How do you go wrong? I mean, they got awesome fries too. I mean, just the food here is just off the charts. You can't. And everything. Vegans are not welcome here. By the way.
Do they do a happy hour, like happy hour deals here
I've never
during?
looked at the happy hour menu, to be honest with you. But it's just everything. Everything is either balled up meat or a sandwich that is loaded with seafood or food. The first thing I had here was the Moby Dick, and I only got it because of the name. But it was amazing. It was
I'm trying to find the kitchen. Where's
Speaking
the
of
kitchen?
Freudian.
Is that back there?
Yeah, straight back.
Well, you're just in a bad spot. You can't see it. Carissa will show you. There's Carissa. Hi, Carissa. Oh God.
Maybe she should come over and tell the special.
She's the star of the show, clearly.
Yeah, stay focused here.
Yeah,
here.
But she's behind the bar. She's working. She's pulling taps. So we just stay out of her way.
So, well, clearly this place does well, because
yeah.
it's
You know
hopping right now.
And it's a Wednesday.
Our first
What's that
show.
all about?
Our first show a week ago Monday. We did 4:00, and then we found out that this place takes off at 5. So we decided instead of driving the crowd, we're just going to bandwagon and gravy train after the crowd. So we immediately after one day moved the show to 5. Plus the fact that every parking lot around here goes cheap at 4:00. So we needed to push everything back an hour so we could park cheap and be part of the big crowd.
Brilliant.
But this place never is down. I mean, Friday night when I got here, I mean, it was every place was. I mean, every table was packed. But it's weird though, because you never know with the downtown vibe. Like at 10:00, it emptied out. I mean, so it's not a stay till 2 kind of a place.
Like it.
It's a very cool place.
So is this
and then
place-
then right over here you got the white collar prison yard over here.
Target playground.
Very
This is where
white
the
collar.
embezzlers
Like a special
get-
basketball court.
Denny
you know.
Hecker's over there, I think.
I'll tell you what. There's nobody at Target can ball at all. It's embarrassing. They got to take that court out.
They're hitting the windows and everything.
Well, not, I mean, let me
got
just say
bocce
this.
ball. They got a
Not
giant
that-
chess table.
Let me preface this by saying, not that there's anything wrong with that, but the kind of big guys who are over there playing basketball are the kind of guys who kick up their heels when they shoot. All right? I mean, the Brian Boitanos of the world are over here trying to hoop it up, and it's so embarrassing.
Why
gotta
couldn't
bring
you
ringers
just stay
or
with the
something.
first joke? You have to get more specific, don't you?
Don't you
Not
think
that there's anything wrong with
Casey
you.
and Mike
Get
got
What you were
specific.
saying?
He's got to kick up his heels when he shoots. That's just, you know, you can picture that, can't you? I mean, there's a guy that, every time I see somebody hoop over here, that's what they're doing. They're kicking up their heels.
It's a very...
It's not a good look.
The two-handed
It's
push
full
shot.
of joy, though.
Well, yeah, well, it's yes.
It's very joyful.
It is
very
joyful.
Yeah, joyful.
Yes, it is. It's glee. I would say gleeful. It's even
There's
gleeful.
that. Yeah, there's that.
So we're 54 minutes into the program. We've
Right.
just got a few minutes left. Is there anything you wanted to get to?
There's something I want to
today?
get to. How do you feel about this whole Timberwolves, scenario?
Well, that's pretty broad for 5 minutes left in the show.
Well, come on. All right, so
Speaking of
the
pretty
Love
broad
era
stuff.
is over, right? So there's
Yes,
some
thank God.
we're
Thank God.
transitioning into the Wiggins.
Yeah.
Are they going to sign? They're not going to give Ricky Rubio the max, but what's going to go on with that? Seriously.
Oh, I don't know how they're going to manage
Because this whole thing with Bledsoe is now over, right?
Correct. But I just thought it was refreshing to see things break their way one time. I mean,
Yeah.
because whenever somebody forces their hand, they're effed. I mean,
Yeah.
Marbury forced their hand, and what can they get for him? Terrell Brandon. I mean, something like that always happens. You know, Sprewell and Cassell
Stop and
come here
pop.
and take you to the conference finals, then they start talking about feeding their families. And
On 21 million.
Things turn around fast for this group. I mean, when you talk about, success for the Timberwolves, it's like, it's so fleeting, and it's followed up by the most bizarre reasons for it to be taken down. And they've made mistakes. I mean, the whole con era is a cluster bleep. I mean, but the bottom line is, they have had a ton of bad luck. I mean, they're always the fourth pick in a three-man draft. I mean, they never move up. But here, think of everything that had to happen. LeBron had to come home, and then he needed to have Kevin Love by his side, and Cleveland had to get another number one pick and be sitting on it, and you could just sit there and wait for them to give in and give it to you.
You could not have made up that scenario.
It finally
you
all
could
fell-
not have. Honestly.
I mean, Flip was the cat that ate the canary, and good for him. And
Yeah, I'm happy for him.
I am too.
I think that
And
these
he's coaching
pieces
them,
actually
too.
fit together a lot better than people are thinking. Now, the whole Pekovic thing is going to be interesting, but I happen to think it's not the worst thing in the world to keep that guy around for a year because I think Flip does want to win 40 games. I think he wants to win 40 games, playoffs or whatever, just to say, fuck you to Kevin Love.
Well, and here's the thing. We've got a new era, a new age pain-in-the-ass athlete. I mean, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, who was the pain-in-the-ass athlete? It was the Pac-Man Jones type. The guy's going to go make it rain in the strip bar and smoke weed and blah, blah, blah. Now the new age pain-in-the-ass athlete is the educated, thoughtful, sensitive Chris Cluey, Kevin Love. Just shut up. Give me Pac-Man. Let's make it rain. Let's make it rain. You take your gay marriage and just go away, and your wrongful dismissal, and you got to go to L.A. and you got to be a movie star. Just take it and go away. I mean, we just don't. It's a pain in the ass. We don't need sensitive. Sensitive is for it is for the guys who kick up their heels when they're shooting over your target.
We miss you, LT. We miss you, Charles Barkley.
Yes.
We miss you, Pac-Man.
So Jeff Dubay is against the smart athlete.
I like
just
it.
all around.
I'm with him.
Well, because I'm smart and I'm not an athlete. If I'm smart, I can't be an athlete. You can't be smart and an athlete. Take the sensitivity and go play bridge. But stay off my NBA team. Stay off my NFL
How much?
team.
I mean, honestly,
Get a haircut.
how much do you think that whole Chloe thing? I know we're short on time. Real quickly, what percentage, if you want to put a percentage on it, do you think it was about self-promotion, and what percentage do you think was about convention?
What was he trying to get out of it, though?
Well,
like another contract?
I'll tell you this.
Well, for a while he thought he was going to be a rock star. So in every single one of those scenarios, you heard Tripping Icarus, and there's only one reason why I effing know that name of that band, and so. I'm just curious.
Well, that's true. That's true. Well, let me say this. I wish when it was all said and done, the Vikings would have just said, "Damn right, we cut him because of his loudmouth political views." Because guess what? As people who run a professional sports franchise, you are allowed to be concerned about locker room chemistry. You're allowed to be concerned about distractions. You are allowed to cut somebody for every damn reason you want to, and it's not discrimination. You could have a good, valid reason behind it. Not to mention he's a punter making $1 million, dollars a year, which is another ridiculous figure. But I mean, it's like when Tony Dungy. When Tony Dungy said, as honestly as a guy could state it, I wouldn't draft Michael Sam because I don't want everything that's going to go along with it. He didn't say Michael Sam's gay and I don't want him on my team, but the idiots of the world jumped on that and treated him like he said that. All he's saying is, I'm a coach. He's a 7th-round pick who's going to be a pain in the ass with the media. Not that he's a bad guy, but it's going to be a media circus for, what, a 7th-round pick?
Well,
no, I'm not going to bother with a guy like
this
that.
is the era of
He
the
was
mob,
dead
though.
honest about
This
it.
is the era of the mob.
But of
back
course,
to the
Tony
80s.
Dungy's religious, so they all think he's a gay basher.
Yeah.
I mean, so they just, here come the villagers with their torches looking for Frankenstein. It's pathetic. It's just pathetic. But, I mean...
Giving the fans too much power.
But the point is, if you don't want Michael Sam on your team because you think that there are things around it that are going to detract from your team, you're allowed to leave Michael Sam alone. If you want to cut Chris Cluey because he's a loudmouth with the media and he's a distraction and a pain in the ass, I don't care if he's Ray Guy times 10. You can cut him for being an asshole. You're allowed. I wish the final salvo was we let him go for football reasons. They should have just said, damn right we cut him because
But they can't. They know they can't.
We don't like it.
Politically, they can't do that. They know they can.
But you do have that right.
Yeah,
You have a
well,
right to
I
put together
certainly-
a clubhouse, a locker room that gels and doesn't hate each other. I mean, you're allowed to do that. Juice, thanks for coming.
Man, it was my pleasure.
Awesome.
Had a great
Awesome.
time.
And the
Great
student
show.
media guys,
Great show.
Sean and Tony.
Thanks for letting us sit in.
Here.
And for Sean for buying all this stuff. Way to go, Sean.
Yeah, well, hey,
Thanks,
congratulations,
Sean.
Sean.
Appreciate
Way
it,
to go.
buddy.
2 weeks in the
Great.
books. JeffDubay.com. Download.
Gotta get down here.
JeffDubay.com. Go.